Guys, I just want you to know this this is a book that I read back in November, and I actually forgot that I wrote this review. But anyways, The Fury by Alex Michaelides is disjointed. And although this is seemingly purposeful, it was very unenjoyable. It's a confusing read, not because of an inadequate writing style, but a different one. A unique prose that unfortunately works against itself. A prose I, ultimately, did not like. This is the sort of book that makes me feel as if I've missed something. As if there was some element, some special coating layered onto this book that I just could not get past. I'm attempting to be poetic here, flaunting a bunch of whimsy metaphors, but what I'm really trying to say is I don't fucking get it. I don't know what this book is trying to do. I don't know what Alex Michaelides was trying to do with this book. It makes me wonder if this guy is a one-hit wonder or if the Maidens and the Fury just doesn't work. The book jumps from first person to third person omniscient to third person limited, and then back to first person in a matter of just a few chapters. Not that this isn't something I'm used to, seeing as how I've just recently come across Patrick Rothfuss, The Name of the Wind. That's how long ago I wrote this review. Wow, that's crazy. Okay. Yeah, but not that it isn't something I'm used to reading things like, Patrick Rothfuss. But what's different about The Fury is there is no indication of who exactly the main character is talking to. In The Name of the Wind, we know Quoth is talking to Chronicler and his student, whose name is escaping me right now. Um, Bast. Bast. We know they're in a bar or in an inn, in a wayside inn, listening to Quoth's story. And the reader understands when that next chapter comes and the perspective switches, we know it is Quoth telling the story. Here, Alex Michaelides attempts to do something similar with his love of Agatha Christie sprinkled into the batter, but it doesn't really work. At least, not for me. Although I'm fairly new to this type of storytelling, its purpose is not lost on me. I just don't understand its purpose here. Not to mention, the narrative is a drag until about midway through. And this is only because the narrative goes back and forth and hardly leaves any current. Damn, my girl. Damn, she bad as hell. Who is this? Damn, she. Damn, who is that? All right, that photo wasn't supposed to come up though. And this is only because the narrative goes back and forth and hardly leaves the current story threads room to breathe before jumping back to some backstory. Which, at some point, I'm still questioning if it was entirely needed. But we will get into all of that very soon. I'll let you know exactly how I feel and why I don't recommend The Fury by Alex Michaelides. Let's get to the point. When I finished this book on my Kindle, it asked me to give it a rating for Goodreads, but I couldn't really decide where to place it, which is why every rating on my Goodreads is meaningless, because there's so much more to it than 5 measly stars. If you were to go on my Goodreads, it'll show that I've placed this book at 3 stars. Maybe I've changed it by now, but I'm pretty sure that's what I also gave The Maidens. So you see the dilemma. The Fury is marginally better, maybe a little worse, but what I'm stuck on mostly is the narrative. The Fury takes place on a fictional Greek island called Aura, which shares the same name as the Greek goddess of the wind. An ex movie star, Lana, and a group of her friends decide to spontaneously travel to the island. One of those friends is a man named Elliot Chase, our protagonist. Elliot is telling us the story as if we're sitting beside him at the bar, recalling the events leading up to the murder which upended the entire trip. But from the very beginning, Elliot admits he is an unreliable narrator, which means the reader should take everything stated with a grain of salt. My problem, however, stems from Elliot's ability to tell the story, not just from his perspective, but from the perspective of others as well. I suppose you could say he's fabricating their inner turmoil and doesn't really know what's going on in their heads, but it's still very confusing. Like, how do you know where these characters are? What's on their minds? What they're currently doing? He talks as if he's an omniscient being watching over them, which made me think the ending was going to be him, I don't know, ascending? Or at the very least, rotting in some mental asylum. That would have been interesting, by the way. If his brain is deteriorating to such a point that he's fabricating this entire story and how it actually happened, and he's fabricating all these different thoughts and how people really see him, or how he at least thinks people see him, then that could be interesting when the reveal comes at the end that he's in some mental asylum. But, you know, that's not the case. Um, do you I was gonna ask if if that sounds like a good idea, but I don't care about your opinion. Yes, I do. Please comment if you liked my idea. So yeah, it made me think that he was ascending or something, or at the very least, rotting in some mental asylum. So because I had that thought in mind, it just doesn't make sense to me at times how Elliot knows the things he's saying, because the entire book is from his perspective. Mostly because Elliot likes to constantly reiterate that the story is not going to go the way we think. Like he's Mark Hamill during The Last Jedi, where he constantly tells us in the trailer that it's not going to go the way we think, that he wishes things could be different, that above everything else, the story should have gone the way he wanted. But this gets tiring so quickly. And really, it pads the runtime of a book that could be so much shorter, or at the very least, could give more time for the characters we might want to get to know a little better. Elliot as a character is fine. You know, he's not anything to write home about or much of a character to remember. He's, not Theo in The Silent Patient, and I don't even remember the name of the girl from The Maidens, but he serves his purpose as the story's protagonist. The rest of the characters, let's see, there's Agatha and Leo and and Lana and Kate and Jason and Nikos. Kate is Lana's best friend and is also cheating with Lana's husband. Leo is Lana's son. Lana is the ex-movie star. Agatha. Jason is the husband. Nikos is the house cleaner and overseer of the island, and also has the largest crush on Lana. But not actually, because Elliot idolizes her more than anyone. In fact, this entire trip is orchestrated by Elliot to finally make Lana his, exclusively. Like, this is Love Island, Greek Love Island. Spin-off? You see, Elliot began as a fan of Lana Farrar's. How do you say that last name? Lana Farrar? Lana Farrar's work. Man, I'm just gonna continue to call her Lana. I don't know why I wrote her last name in the script like I was gonna be able to pronounce that. Um, but yeah, anyways. You see, Elliot began as a fan of Lana's work. He'd sit in the 15th row of the theater and watch her movies, but he never expected to meet her, much less befriend her. But eventually he did, becoming a close friend to Lana with the hope of becoming something more. But that would be a much more difficult road to travel since Elliot has not had the best of lives. He's he's actually, I don't know what he's lost or why he's even where he is today, but he's living with some old writer who took him in named Barbara West. Barbara West is a famous famous writer, author, playwright. She's famous. We'll leave it at that. So, when Lana and Elliot begin to get closer, Barbara steps in and puts a line between them. She tells Lana that he's dangerous, and his life is not one she wants to be a part of. Now, why is he dangerous? I don't know. Not because I wasn't paying attention, but because the book never elaborates on how he's dangerous or why Barbara knows this about him. She says to Lana, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw on the news that I fell down the stairs one day. And come to find out, Elliot pushed her down the stairs and killed her. But only after she came in between the two of them. Not that I'm justifying it, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, if another guy comes in between me and my girl, I might just push him down the stairs too. No. Like, it's not like Elliot has been planning Barbara's death from the beginning. So it's like, you kind of brought that on yourself. The entire story hinges on the narrative's ability to sell to the reader just how dangerous Elliot is. But we never see it. We never see it. Characters constantly say, Elliot is a monster. Elliot is dangerous. But like, I don't know, man. I mean, he seems like a pretty chill guy. Now, did he plan a murder, stalk an entire affair, documenting when and where they met, and how he would get rid of them, and how he would make Lana ultimately realize her husband was cheating on her with her best friend? Yes. But you know what, man? That's just dedication, you know? Like, and that's what's missing from relationships nowadays. You know, people just don't. I'm kidding. But no, that is weird, obviously, you know, documenting that kind of stuff and stalking an entire affair. That's some weird stuff. Like, sure, he's a bit self-centered. Sure, he's a bit weird. But there's so many other elements you should be focusing on, Lana. First off, Kate gets away with it with Lana forgiving her so easily. Agatha knew about the affair and never said anything to Lana. Elliot knew about the affair, but he also knew how deep her feelings for Jason were. So, if she were to simply be told, she would forgive him too. Elliot needed a way to show Lana that Jason did not care about her. Still, this wasn't the way to go about it, obviously. But the person Lana should be really frustrated with and furious at is Jason. But let me back up for a second and just say this. This is not psychological thriller. This is not a mystery. Honestly, I don't know what to label this as because it's not much of any of the genres it's listed under. Not to say this is a bad book because of that, but you know, it like this isn't a who done it as much as it is a why done it. But that still doesn't make it much of a mystery because the reader is eventually told why it was done. The book is promoted as a mystery where a murder takes place and the group of friends have to figure out who did it. But by the end, it's revealed that no one actually died and that everyone except Jason knew it was a fake death. But then the real death happens, like 10 pages before the book ends, and that death is stupid. Here's why. So, Elliot has this plan to get Lana to face reality and finally be with him instead. His plan is to fake Lana's death with her help, blame her death on Jason, make Kate kill Jason, and then make everything else seem like an unfortunate accident. But the night Lana comes to Elliot's place after learning about the affair, she finds him sleeping with his journal of notes tucked beside him. Lana then learns of his insane plan as well as his true feelings towards her, which, man, how did you not how did you not catch on, Lana? What are you doing? This freaks Lana out so much she becomes afraid of Elliot, so she rushes her reconciliation with Kate all to tell her about Elliot. Lana and Kate then decide they cannot let Elliot win and that this, for some reason, lets Jason off the hook. Instead, they decide to go ahead with Elliot's plan of inviting everyone to the island. They follow his plan until the final act, where Kate is supposed to shoot Jason and then go to prison. Instead, Nico shows up behind Elliot, holding him at gunpoint. He then leads Elliot to the others, where they all bully him into pointing the gun at himself. Afterwards, Lana and her friends, minus Jason, who's still sitting there confused, embarrass Elliot and leave him humiliated. She then gives him a stern, "Don't ever come back here again," and leaves him at the docks. But here's the stupid part. They leave him at the docks with no supervision and no expectation of retaliation. But Elliot walks back to the house and shoots Lana. And it's just like, you've been telling me how dangerous Elliot is the entire time, but you don't think it necessary to tie him up? To call the police? Something? It goes without saying. It literally goes against everything. Now, I never believed you because I had never been given a reason to understand why they knew him to be dangerous. But the characters knew and just walked away to party like he wasn't there anymore. Like he wasn't a threat anymore. Like he wasn't still on the island. Honestly, I preferred this book when it was Elliot orchestrating everything. It was so close to giving me that familiar magic I'd seen in The Silent Patient. If only the author saw the greater potential. Hear me out, okay? Here's how this story could work, right? If the story was not told from Elliot's perspective, but from Jason's perspective instead, everything could have had a different payoff. Imagine the one character that didn't know a thing. But in this scenario, Lana, Kate, and the rest of them don't know either. Instead, Jason is slowly uncovering the mystery, an actual mystery. But his final moments are on the docks, standing before Kate. He dies just as he puts every piece of the puzzle together, and then the perspective switches to Elliot, who is revealed to be the one behind it all. I don't know, man. Maybe I should start doing some actual rewrites on AO3 because it's one thing to say things could have been better another way, but it is completely another to show how it could have worked through writing. So, I don't know. Maybe 1,000 likes on this video and I'll rewrite the ending of The Fury and post it on AO3. But regardless of the rewrites, the book was a roller coaster, and not so much a thrilling one. It had too many stops, too many changes in the pacing. It even spoils the ending of The Silent Patient. Like, if you read this book first and then read The Silent Patient and remember anything about the character Theo, you'll remember, oh, wait, Theo, isn't that the guy that's locked up in the end? Surely it can't be the same guy. Like, why are you spoiling your own? Am I subscribed to Disney Plus? Am I subscribed to is this Marvel? Is this the Therapist Cinematic Universe? Is this the TCU? I don't understand. Why are you spoiling your own creation? Anyways, The Silent Patient is a much better book and should be, hopefully, read before this. But it's still weird for you to spoil your own work. Hopefully, if you're picking this book first, you don't remember Theo in the slightest when reading The Silent Patient. But, that's all I have to say. This is a very short review, obviously, because I forgot about this book and I forgot I wrote this review. And honestly, reading the script for this review, I'm like piecing the story back together. Man, I really forgot about this book. I'm going to have to reread it at some point and return, but not anytime soon because obviously I didn't like it. So for those reasons, I do not recommend The Fury by Alex Michaelides. My name is Jalen. This is the Javelin's Ace, and I will see you in the next Spear Point Review. Have a great day.